Hey guys, let's get more news from Dallas Cowboys, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Predicting what will happen in the NFL over the next 12 months is impossibly difficult. You have to account for every single bit of player movement, foresee injuries that will alter the season in a moment and adjust for everything from weather that's too hot to conditions that are icy cold. And then, after all that, the Chiefs just end up winning the Super Bowl anyway. Naturally, I want to raise the difficulty even higher. The good news for me is I'm going to be predicting upcoming Pro Football Hall of Fame classes, so many of the players have already finished their careers and finalized their credentials. The bad news is I've chosen to predict the next 10 Hall of Fame classes, so if you thought figuring out what's going to happen in 2025 is tough, imagine how hard it'll be to prognosticate the goings-on in 2034, a decade down the line. I'm going to try my best. Since active players and coaches become eligible 5 years after retiring, the classes toward the tail end of this exercise will be full of players currently in the NFL. As a result, I've had to do some guesswork as to when veteran players will retire and what their resumes will look like when they do call it quits. Players I project to be playing through the 2030 season, including Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons, won't appear in this piece. I'll be considering players who are already retired and eligible for the Hall and coaches who have recently been active, but I won't be focusing on senior candidates from the past. I'll mention candidates as they become eligible each year and then again if I project them to make it to Canton, as needed. And finally, just to be clear, these aren't my suggestions for who should make the Hall of Fame, these are my predictions for who will make the Hall of Fame if the voters act as they have in previous years. QB Eli Manning, first year of eligibility. Let's start with a notable example of the difference between a player I think should not be in the Hall of Fame and one who will likely end up enshrined in Canton. Manning was a good quarterback who never once engendered serious consideration as an MVP candidate or as the best quarterback in football. His only award vote was a sixth-place finish in the Comeback Player of the Year award in 2011. He led the league in interceptions 3 times. He was healthy for nearly his entire career and made 4 Pro Bowls. If he's a left guard, that's the sort of resume that gets a player "Where are they now?" videos on the team website, not Hall of Fame consideration. Of course, Manning wasn't a left guard but instead a quarterback who beat Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls. History tells us the electorate values Super Bowl wins, and the only eligible quarterback with 2 Super Bowl victories who isn't in the Hall is Jim Plunkett. Manning is probably close in historical impact to someone like Bob Greasy, who didn't last as long as a pro but earned more MVP consideration in multiple seasons. It took Greasy a decade, but he made it into the Hall. Without many other giants from those teams who will earn serious consideration and with a relatively weak class in 2025, Manning should be in. Antonio Gates, second year of eligibility. I was a little surprised Gates didn't make it in with the 2024 class, frankly. The longtime Chargers standout made 8 straight Pro Bowls at his peak and ranks 3rd among tight ends in career receiving yards, trailing Tony Gonzalez and Jason Witten. Gates hung around for a long time, which can hurt a player's chances if they're not performing at a high level, but we're talking about one of the best players at his position in NFL history. Edge Terrell Suggs, first year of eligibility. Will T-Sizzle show up on Suggs' plaque? He entered the NFL as a 20-year-old, so he was around for a long time. He was a Ravens player long enough to play with both Orlando Brown Sr. and Orlando Brown Jr. He had 7 different seasons with double-digit sacks, 1 Defensive Rookie and Defensive Player of the Year, and managed to help the Chiefs win a Super Bowl as a waiver acquisition in his final season. Suggs is 8th on the official sack leaderboard, and all of the eligible players above him, and quite a few of the players immediately below him, are in the Hall. It's tough for me to see a case in which he doesn't make it quickly. Edge Jared Allen, 5th year of eligibility. Likely the first Hall of Famer to make an appearance on MTV's Jackass, Allen had a solid case as the league's best pass rusher during his peak with the Chiefs and Vikings. He racked up 77.5 sacks over a 5-year span between 2007 and 2011 and was a first-team All-Pro 4 times, although he never did manage a Defensive Player of the Year award. Allen might be hurt by the reality that his best years came on subpar teams, like the 2007 Chiefs and 2011 Vikings. He nearly made a trip to the Super Bowl with the Vikings in 2010, only for Minnesota to lose to New Orleans in the NFC Championship game. He was a bit player on the Panthers team that was blown out by the Broncos in what turned out to be his final NFL game. Adam Vinatieri, first year of eligibility. There might be some voters who won't select a kicker on principle, but if you're open to the idea, how could you not say yes to Vinatieri? A 3-time first-team All-Pro who spent 24 years in the NFL, he holds the career records for points, extra points, and field goals made. On top of that, Vinatieri won 2 Super Bowls with last-second kicks, although I'd argue the most dramatic kicks he ever made were the 45 and 23-yarders he put through the uprights in the snow at Foxborough against the Raiders in the 2001 AFC Championship game. The Dallas Cowboys will be entering the 2024 season with the same expectations they've had ever since Mike McCarthy took over as head coach, to win the Super Bowl. Those expectations have remained steady throughout the regular season, however, come the playoffs Dallas has been bounced in the first or second round each year. If McCarthy wants to keep his job, a deep postseason run feels mandatory. One star player who is a vital piece of the team just received a counter offer from Dallas that has many fans in a state of shock. CeeDee Lamb will likely be the league's highest-paid wide receiver for at least a short period. Cincinnati Bengals star wideout Ja'Marr Chase also wants a new deal. While Chase has held in amid a contract dispute, Lamb won't report to training camp until he gets an extension, but the All-Pro receiver may be one step closer to a contractual agreement with the Dallas Cowboys. In an appearance on San Antonio's Sports Star, Cowboys executive vice president Stephen Jones said the team has a counteroffer from Lamb's camp, hat tip Patrick Walker of the team's official website. He described negotiations with Lamb's reps as very upbeat and cordial. This offseason, the Minnesota Vikings made Justin Jefferson the highest-paid wide receiver with a 4-year, $140 million extension. Lamb could top the wideout pay scale on a deal worth $36+ million annually. Assuming Dallas wants to help quarterback Dak Prescott play at an optimal level in his contract year, it will hand out a mega deal to Lamb before Week 1. With a worn-down version of Ezekiel Elliott likely to lead the Cowboys' backfield, Lamb looks like a strong candidate to win 2024 Offensive Player of the Year in a pass-reliant offense. Last season, he hauled in a league-leading 135 receptions for 1,749 yards and 12 touchdowns. Lamb is an essential part of the Cowboys' offense. The fact that he is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL speaks for itself. However, Brandon Cooks, 657 yards in 2023, and Jalen Tolbert, 268 yards in 2023, don't provide much depth beyond Lamb. The Cowboys' passing attack would take a massive hit if Lamb wasn't retained. Getting this deal done is essential for their Super Bowl hopes. Dallas Cowboys, but that doesn't mean they couldn't still make an important addition at running back. While Dallas does have several options already, Chicago Bears RB Khalil Herbert has appeared as a potential way to improve the group. On July 28, Blogging the Boys writer Dan Rogers explored multiple RBs that Dallas could pursue. The 26-year-old could move as he is now the third name on the Bears' depth chart. Herbert was thought to be the workhorse back last year after the departure of David Montgomery, but he remained in a part-time role. His role could be smaller this year as he finds himself as the Bears' RB3. Chicago signed free agent DeAndre Swift and has second-year back Roscoe Johnson. Herbert is in the last year of his rookie deal, so any trade would likely just be a one-year rental, but considering he is a year removed from leading all running backs with 5.7 yards per carry, a late-round draft resource wouldn't be a bad investment, Rogers wrote. He may not be a superstar, but he has proven that he can add energy to an NFL offense like the Cowboys. Herbert begins NFL career with Bears. After his college career at Kansas and Virginia Tech, Herbert was drafted by Chicago in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL Draft. Herbert did not arrive to massive expectations, but quickly gave Bears fans a reason for optimism. According to Pro Football Reference, Herbert totaled 433 rushing yards in 2021. He scored 2 touchdowns and averaged 4.2 yards per carry as a rookie. While those stats don't jump off the page, the RB set himself up for a big sophomore year. In 2022, Herbert ran for 731 rushing yards and scored 4 touchdowns. The former Jayhawk averaged a whopping 5.7 yards per carry and only started a single game for Chicago. Herbert did regress somewhat in 2023, totaling 611 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in 12 appearances. His average carry dropped to 4.6 yards per touch, but that is still a solid output. Cowboys RB speaks on CeeDee Lamb holdout. While the Cowboys could consider adding an RB, they have to figure out the CeeDee Lamb situation. Dallas top receiver is holding out of training camp as he looks for his next contract. While it's not an ideal situation for anyone involved, Cowboys RB Ezekiel Elliott is keeping a grounded perspective. It's really tough because you go through your first 3 or 4 years and you guys are on the same side, and this is the first time that now you're kind of going against each other, Elliott said on July 26 according to ESPN reporter Todd Archer. So, you've got to have a little thick skin. There's some little extra stuff that comes with it, but at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. Lamb is coming off a record-setting season with 135 receptions for 1,749 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns. He is entering the final year of his rookie contract, which will pay him a $18 million salary in 2024.